And we are live for another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, it is time for another football season here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The NFL season is just a mere couple days away from its first game of the regular season in 2025-2026. It'll be the Cowboys taking on the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. Game I'm not looking forward to for obvious reasons, being a Giants fan, but nonetheless, it does mean that the NFL season is around the corner. And here on the show today, we'll be previewing this upcoming NFL season, giving our picks for division winners, our outlooks for our own teams, the Giants and Patriots as well, while also looking at teams that will make the wild card as well. Then going into our conference winners to make the Super Bowl, our Super Bowl pick, and then our Super Bowl MVP pick for the first time this year going for preseason purposes. And then, of course, it's the week one mushing hour later on in the show. Johnson, how we feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm not awfully confident, but I do have some confidence. I think we're better than about 15 teams in the league. But, it kind of puts us in no man's land right now. So, I don't think we're good enough to win 12, 13 games and get one of those top four win division, whatever. But I also feel like we're tanking for, the first overall pick again. So, I'm kind of in no man's land, which I don't really know how to feel.
Understandable. But hey, listen, at least football's back. I guess that's a little bit of a silver lining if there is
That
one
is
for you
true.
this year. And, for us, another year for us doing this podcast, doing another season of the NFL. And I mentioned this in the college football podcast towards the end of the show. I felt like from the end of the season last year in February to now, not a bad overlap to where we're at now at this point in time in 2025. As now, just like that, football is back and we are ready to kick off another season in the National Football League. And as I mentioned earlier, the Eagles are the defending champions. They will look to repeat their championship this upcoming season, but there, of course, there's 31 other teams looking to make sure the Eagles do not do the case. And today we'll be previewing and looking at what these teams did in the offseason, how they look going into their respective seasons, and of course, who will win their respective divisions at the end of the day. So, Johnson, let's kick it off with the AFC East. We'll kick off with your division, where obviously it looks like the Buffalo Bills are the favorite to once again win that division. They have been on a tear the last couple seasons, winning that division. I believe 5 straight AFC East championships for Buffalo. They're looking to make it a 6th straight championship this upcoming season. And if you look at the rest of the division, it's a weird spot because you have another, tumultuous season for the Jets after what happened last year with Aaron Rodgers and company. Now they have a whole new slate, new head coach, new quarterback, basically a whole new bunch of players there. So they're pretty much looking like to be in rebuild mode again. You have your Patriots, who I think are on the ups right now in terms of where they're currently positioned. A new head coach and Mike Vrabel definitely helps them as well. You added Stephon Diggs in the offseason. Travion Henderson's gotten a lot of hype this preseason. Of course, Drake May is looking to have about a big second year in the NFL. So the Patriots are a team that someone's looking out to maybe being a sleeper team as a wild card team this year. And then you have the Miami Dolphins, who are probably the one in the weirdest spot, I feel like, in the entire NFL, where there's talent on the roster, but I necessarily don't know if they are going to be a playoff team this year because a multitude of injuries have happened. Of course, the last couple of seasons, Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. Then you traded Jalen Ramsey this past offseason to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick back at the helm. But the Dolphins are definitely in a weird spot where I can't really tell if they are a playoff team or not. What are you looking forward to the most, obviously, in your division in the AFC East?
Well, I'm kind of looking forward to how the Dolphins and the Jets are going to be able to respond now because for the last couple of years, it was kind of expected that the Jets were going to do something and the Dolphins were going to do something. And now the pressures, reached the boiling point in New York where they had to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. They killed the experiment. They're not playing primetime anymore. They're not playing Sunday night football, Thursday night football. I feel like every game where when Aaron Rodgers was supposed to play that entire year, it was just a years long games of primetime games. That's not happening. The Dolphins, they were looking good. They had their new coach. They had the young offense. They had Tyreek Hill. Tua was looking good. And now they've taken a step back the last couple of years. So I'm interested in seeing is how these teams respond to the pressure. Because the Bills, they have a whole other thing, which we're going to talk about. It's the pressure of, yes, okay, Josh Allen's an MVP quarterback. Yes, he can get 40 touchdowns in a season, all all these great, amazing things, but he can't beat the Chiefs and he can't make it to the Super Bowl. So there's
Right.
all these mental hurdles in this division. And it feels like for the first time, New England is the team that has something to prove. And all these other teams, it's the pressure on them. So New England right now is playing with house money. They have a first year head coach in Mike Vrabel, a second year starter in Drake May. They get a brand new running back. Stephon Diggs it's going to be the first year he's there. And again, I'm not too happy about that signing. I've said it before. I think it's terrible, but I hope he proves me wrong. And that's what I'm looking forward to. How about you, Nick?
I think for this division, in terms of what I'm looking forward to, it's basically I think we're both of the same agreements that it's probably Buffalo's to lose. It's really tough for us to really say I think this team can win it. I think the only way Buffalo doesn't win the division is if something bad foreseen happens for this team, and I just don't really see it happening this upcoming season. I have Buffalo to win the division, and the thing I'm looking forward to the most is what I kind of talked about earlier. Will we see New England take that step with Mike Vrabel this upcoming season and maybe be a sneaky wild card team, or will they, keep still rebuilding, maybe win 7 games this season and get it back into the right step? And then it's also looking at what the Dolphins are going to do, because the Dolphins, again, have the talent there at the helm, but can they put it all together? Because if not, it might lead to some changes in the offseason for a multitude of things, not only head coach, but you might have to start talking about maybe replacing quarterback as well, even though you paid Tua Tagovailoa a lot of money just a couple of years ago.
When you're a season, he's going to be the savior of that team. Book it.
Yeah. I know why you're saying that.
Hey,
You have a lot
no
of
shade against Arch, but after yesterday, everyone looks mighty dumb after saying Quinn should be benched, all this nonsense when Arch wasn't ready last year either. So, hey, that's all I gotta say. Is it seems like he's kind of been slept on, has all this negative connotation. All he needs is a chance, and I think he'll get it eventually in Miami.
And then the Jets, like I said, they're in another rebuilding phase. I don't know where they're going at this point.
The
It
Jets
doesn't
are the
really
Miami Marlins of the NFL. It's just rebuild
have
after
to rebuild,
rebuild
have to
after
rebuild.
rebuild.
Yeah,
But hey, at least Miami got 2 championships, right? In the
that's
last
true.
25 years.
That's true.
So they got something.
I do like Aaron Glenn, but I don't know how much he's really going to be able to help. The Jets are pretty much in a spot where they are still a quarterback, away from maybe making the playoffs again. And right now, they're just nowhere near close. And a quarterback away might not even be the case, because they pretty much said that with Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago. So who knows? But like I said, I think we're both in agreement. It's the Bills to lose.
Yeah, it's the Bills to lose, and I think the Bills will win around 12 games, and I think New England will win somewhere around between 9 or 10 games, and 10 games might be enough for them to sneak into the playoffs. Vegas has the Patriots winning 8 games, and I think they're gonna be a little bit better than that, but we'll see.
I would say they have a favorable schedule that could get them
They
that
do,
opportunity to do so. So
they
I
do.
don't I don't hate that.
I do think if you take a look at the New England Patriots schedule, it is very favorable, like you just said. If you want to take a look at the beginning of the season in particular, they're going to kick. And again, we're not going to do this every team, but just we do have our teams
Yeah,
here, the Patriots and the Giants. They're going to be host the Raiders, which are going to be
who
terrible,
knows with
right?
them? Yeah, I
And
don't know
then
the Raiders. I'll talk about the Raiders later. I feel like the people might be sleeping on Vegas. They have a lot of
yeah,
talent on that
they
team.
do, but it's their first game. They could be a lot better
Right,
at week 11 than week 1, especially on the
right.
road. That's what I'm saying here. I know Genti, awesome. They have Gino. They got Pete Carroll.
Bowers, yeah,
Yeah, so they're gonna be good, but they'll be better week 11 than they are week 1. It's
yeah.
not
I
gonna be
get
one
it.
of his teams that falls apart. They could get better as the year goes on, but it's week 1. I would chalk that New England. Then New England goes
Yeah,
down to Miami. Just they're gonna lose. They always lose in Miami. Then it's the Steelers by week 3.
it's
I
a
think they
weird
can.
game.
It's gonna be a weird game. I think they can win at home, and then they're gonna host the Panthers. So there's a strong chance this team is very good one by week 5, by the end of week 4, and after that it's Bills, Saints, Titans, and Browns. They can win 3 of those games. This team could easily be 6-2 by the end of October.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be how they start here. They're gonna get that strong start, and then they're gonna struggle in the middle. They're gonna play the Bengals. They're gonna play the Buccaneers. They're gonna play the Bills again. They're gonna play the Ravens. So they're gonna struggle towards that latter half. So if it looks like, oh yeah, they were a fraudulent team, no, it's because they beat up on the weak teams the first half of the year, and if they can just take care of business the first half of the year, and then in the middle of it, beat the Jets once. Unfortunately, they could beat the Giants, and then maybe beat the Bills at home late in the season. It could possibly happen. It's happened before with worse teams, and they beat the Dolphins at home. That's 10 wins.
Yeah.
That's 10 wins right there. So it's a feasible 10 wins. I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's a lock, whatever, but it can happen.
And what would you say the over under was for them in the season?
Vegas has them at 8.5.
Eight
So
and a
they have
half.
it around, yeah. So the under 8.5 is plus 115, and the over 8.5 is minus 135. So they have them at 8 wins. They have the Patriots somewhere around 8 wins. So I'm
Okay.
saying it's 10. It's not really. I'm not really being too egregious here.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I mean, like I said, after we make our division picks, we'll make our 3 wild card picks as well. So the Patriots, right now, it sounds like might be a wild card team for you. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But let's talk about the next division, Johnson. Let's talk about the AFC North, where I think you can make the case, of course, for 2 teams in the division. I would have said a third team, but I don't know what direction they're going in either. They're kind of like the Dolphins for me in the AFC East. And then you have the Browns. I mean, there's just nothing else to say right there. The Browns are just as much as as much as it could be fun to see Flacco play another season. I don't see where any hope is coming from Cleveland right now at this point. But you look at Baltimore, of course. What happened last season in the playoffs was just a really tough way to end your season. They were a 2 point conversion away from tying the game against the Bills. Mark Andrews drops that pass. They lose by 2 in Buffalo. And they come into the season now, of course, new kicker after what happened with Justin Tucker during the offseason. And you still have Lamar Jackson, of course, an MVP candidate every single year he plays. Did have an injury concern in the preseason, but he looks to be fine and ready for week number 1. You have the Cincinnati Bengals, who were a team of the offseason in terms of contract extensions with Trey Hendrickson. They finally got an extension done, at least for just now for this upcoming season. So that is a good sign for their defense because let's face facts, their defense is not good at all. And they need Hendrickson at least to have some type of hope on that defensive line. And we know what their offense is. It's a top 5 offense in the entire NFL. Burrow, Chase Brown was a revelation last year. Jamar Chase, of course. T. Higgins, of course. There's just a lot of talent on that offensive team. And for a team that missed the playoffs last season, they want to get back this year, or else, a topic that you and I have discussed a multitude of times here on the podcast is Zach Taylor's, on the hot seat or not. Because if they don't make the playoffs again for this upcoming season, it's really going to be tough tough to keep him at the helm as the head coach of the Bengals. And then finally, the Steelers is the team where I'm weirded out and where they're going because last year they started off fine. They were battling with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback. They still made the playoffs somehow, some way at the end of the season. They lost to Baltimore in the wild card round. And now they have another new quarterback, and it's Aaron Rodgers. And of course, with Aaron Rodgers comes all this, you know, I don't want to say controversy, but it's basically controversy with him anytime something happens. And, you add DK Metcalf. That was great. I mentioned earlier they added Jalen Ramsey as well. They extended TJ Watt this past offseason, too. So they've made some big moves in the offseason. And of course, they also they let Najee Harris walk, so now they have a new running back tandem in Jalen Warren and rookie Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So the Steelers' offense, to me, is in a weird limbo where I don't know how they're going to do this season, but their defense is going to keep them alive in every single game. That's pretty much a guarantee for them. So with that being said, what's your outlook for this division, and who do you have winning the division?
Bounce back year for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that him and Jamar Chase are going to be a deadly duo. T. Higgins, although he just got paid, going to pay dividends. He's not going to be one of those guys. Oh, I got paid now. I'm done. He's going to look great as well. That offense is going to score 45 points a game, and the
Can't
defense
wait.
is going to give up 42 games. Is going to give up to 42 a game. So
Yeah.
it's going to be very fun football. Expect a lot of overs to hit. I think they win the division, but Baltimore, I think they're the better team on paper with that defense. Like you can't count out King Henry and Lamar Jackson, but Derrick
Yes, of
Henry's
course.
getting he's on the wrong side of 30 now. But
Yeah.
that's what concerns me a little bit. He's been very healthy, no real injury history. But give me Cincinnati for now.
I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I think until I see something, until proven otherwise, I think it's their division still to lose. As you mentioned, on paper, when it comes to all around team, they are the best overall team in that division. The Bengals, in my opinion, probably have a better offensive scheme, just in terms of how they're able to run the ball with Chase Brown. They can throw the ball, of course, with Burrow and company. And it's not that Baltimore can't throw the football, but they're just so deadly on the ground. You talked about Derrick Henry, you talked about Lamar Jackson. You just keep that going for what they did last season. Baltimore's going to have another top 5 offensive season this upcoming year. And I think until I see something from the Bengals, maybe their defense improves this season. I'm not sure if it will, but Baltimore's got the second best defense, in my opinion, in this entire division behind the
Yeah,
Steelers.
it is.
So
It's maybe in the NFL, the top, maybe the second best defense in the NFL. I mean,
it's
obviously,
possible, yeah.
early season there's other teams, but there's always one of those teams that their defense we think is really good. And it's like, all right, they weren't good at all. So I
Yeah.
don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be one of them.
I'm gonna go with just Baltimore. Just play it. I'm gonna go with the safe pick in my opinion in this division. But the Bengals, I think, will be a team that contends with Baltimore for the majority of the season as a threat in that division for the division title. So we'll see. This next division is, and when you look at this next division, Johnson, it's kind of weird to think about. This one kind of, at least for me, I don't know how you feel about this one. It kind of feels wide open in the AFC South because the Texans, yes, have won this division the last 2 years, ever since CJ Stroud, of course, was drafted. But they don't feel as if they're the same team from the last 2 years. They've traded away Laramie Tunsil. You're getting back Nico Collins coming off an injury last season. Stephon Diggs walked in the offseason as well. And they're still waiting to see when Tank Dell comes back from injury. So right now, your top 2 receivers are going to be Nico Collins back from his injury, and then they got Christian Kirk from the division rival Jaguars. So the Texans are in a weird spot. The biggest thing for them, though, their defense looks to be a top 5 defense in the entire NFL right now, in my opinion. Will Anderson's been a stud since they drafted him. Derek Stingley has also looked like a stud for them as well. So they've got that going for them. I'm interested to see how their offense is going to do because last year their offensive line was already not playing great, and then they traded away their best tackle in Laramie Tunsil. So I'm curious to see what their offensive line can do. The rest of the division is also weird because you have the Jaguars, who obviously have a new head coach and Liam Cohen from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course, they drafted Travis Hunter. I mean, one of the biggest trade ups in the draft, of course, moving up a pick to get him, and the dynamic player, the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see how much he plays on offense and defense this upcoming season. It's going to be certainly something to see because we've never really seen that in the NFL. I don't think ever. Maybe Deion Sanders did for a little bit, but not by much. And now we get to see him do it for this upcoming season, depending on how long it's going to be. The Jaguars, of course, bringing in a lot of their talent from last season, but it's going to be up to Cohen and company to try to fix that offense and try to fix Trevor Lawrence because he just hasn't really looked like the Trevor Lawrence we expected out of college. The guy that was the hyped up number 1 overall pick has just not really been there for this team, and they're starting to begin the stirring of conversations on can this guy be that franchise quarterback that they picked a couple of seasons ago. So we'll see what happens with Jacksonville. The Colts, what can you say about their offseason, Johnson? I mean, Anthony Richardson.
They won the offseason. They got Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Big winners.
Daniel Jones going to be starring for the upcoming season for the Colts. I will say I was kind of surprised that they made this move. I don't really know where you go from here if you're Anthony Richardson because you were highly drafted. You had the incident last year where you took yourself off the field because you were tired. You were pretty much up and down the entirety of the season, and everyone knew he was going to be a project coming out of the draft. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked so far. And now Shane Steichen and the company, they're in a spot where their jobs are kind of on the line this upcoming season. So they're going to try to go with Daniel Jones for the season. I guess the only thing going for them is that they could still win this division just because of how, in my opinion, wide open it is. And I think it really is going to come down to can Jonathan Taylor, continue his dominance these last couple seasons? Can Daniel Jones really get the most out of this receiving core that is still pretty relatively young? You still have Michael Pittman there. You're trying to get guys like Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce, and just to note, involved in that offense as well. Josh Downs, of course, too. And they also drafted Tyler Warren from Penn State, who I thought was the best tight end in the entire country last season. And their defense could still do work that could help them maybe win this division. And then the Titans, of course, number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, now gets a start for this team up this season. It really can't get much worse for this team after what happened last year, winning just 2 games. You're hoping that Cam Ward is the face of the franchise and can be that next stepping stone for this team to get back into playoff contention for Brian Callahan and company, they pretty much have to figure out, can Cam Ward be that guy? Because of course he's had that big story where he, started off as a 0-star prospect from Incarnate Word, got all the way up to Washington State, then transferred to Miami, and then became the number one overall pick in just pretty much a season's tale after what he did with the Hurricanes last season. So, with all of that being said, who do you have winning the AFC South coming up this season?
I think it has to be the Texans until proven guilty at this point. Like you said, we don't know what's going on really with the Colts, and Trevor Lawrence to me, he doesn't do anything for me. I don't. I think Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. I think if you swap them out, their production would be the exact same. I really don't think he's this godsend of a quarterback that he was in Clemson, which is surprising because I don't know where the disconnect has been, but he's still young, he still has time, and this could be the year they turn around. If that's it, then that's great. But right now, I have the Texans until proven guilty.
I'm going to go with a surprise. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the AFC South this upcoming season. I'm going to base this off of what I saw Liam Cohen did last season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, where he utilized his running backs in a pass catching type of role, and then they were very productive as well with the receivers. If they can get the most out of Trevor Lawrence this upcoming season, you get guys like ETN and Tank Bigsby to note in that backfield. You get them back to where they were hoping for them to be the last couple seasons. If you get them to a higher standard this upcoming season, that will go a long way. And then, of course, you look at the receiving core. It's not a bad receiving core. I forgot to mention Brian Thomas Jr. and how could I forget about what he did this past season just as a rookie. Now you bring him back for year two with this guy, Liam Cohen, who did a lot of good numbers for the passing game for the Buccaneers offensive style last year. You bring in Travis Hunter. You're hoping that can help as well, too. I think, as crazy as it sounds, I think the Jaguars could be a sneaky, decent team this upcoming season. So I have them to win the AFC South for the upcoming year.
That is an interesting take. It's not far fetched because, like I said, this division really isn't that great. I mean, I'm going to bank on CJ Stroud coming back. I think he's going to be a lot better. And again, with Trevor Lawrence, I just don't know. To me, it's a big.
No, I get it.
I'm going to go with the known over the unknown, but I could definitely see him easily win this division. I can see the winner of this division winning 9 games. So,
yeah, it's very possible this could be a division where a team wins. I might even say 8 games. You might go 8-9. That might be enough.
8-9 pride.
Yeah, it might be enough. But let's round off our division talk in the AFC with the AFC West. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs had another AFC West division title last year, but obviously did not end the season the way they had hoped for. They got pretty much ran out of the entire stadium by the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl. And a big offseason for them. They have pretty much changed their entire offensive line. They still bring back a lot of talent from last season. They just found out Rashee Rice is going to be suspended for the first 6 games of the season. But after week 7, they will have him back because they do have a bye week in between that as well. So they do get him back during the second half of the season. You bring back Xavier Worthy, of course. And of course, you know, Travis Kelce, could this be the last year for him? We know what's going on off the field for Travis Kelce. I don't really think I need to go into words with that. But if Kelce is back to old Kelce, I mean, the Chiefs could be in a prime territory to once again win the AFC West and maybe once again go back to the Super Bowl. But I will say this division has gotten better in the last couple of seasons, and especially what's happened this offseason. Let's go to the next team, the Denver Broncos. Monster year for them last year, considering that this was a team that was projected to potentially picking in the top 5 of the NFL draft going into last season. They finished as the last wild card in the AFC. Bo Nix was a revelation for them in the second half of the season. Cortland Sutton did some great numbers for them as well. And, you know, you go into this next upcoming season, you're bringing in guys like, I try to remember, J.K. Dobbins. I almost mixed up with Javonte Williams for a second, who was their former running back. But they bring in J.K. Dobbins, who did some pretty good numbers with the Chargers last season. He'll be competing with rookie R.J. Harvey out of UCF for the starting running back role there. Their defense is also really, really solid. They could be a top 5 defense upcoming this season. So the Broncos are in a pretty good spot. They could once again maybe potentially make the playoffs this season. However, another team in the division, the Los Angeles Chargers, have some words to say for that. But keep in mind, the Chargers are in a bit of a rough spot right now after what happened during the preseason. They, of course, lost their star tackle, Rashawn Slater. He is out for the entire season with his injury that he sustained. So that's a big loss for this Chargers offensive line unit going into this upcoming season. They do, of course, bring back Justin Herbert. They bring in Najee Harris from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He'll be competing with rookie Omarion Hampton for the starting running back role in LA. Of course, you bring back Keenan Allen, the veteran. He'll be the number 2 wide receiver more than likely after Ladd McConkey. And their defense is going to be probably the question mark for them right now coming into the season, but still a good enough unit that they could make the playoffs once again. And of course, when you have Jim Harbaugh as your head coach, your defense, you still tend to, be fine having him as your head coach because he knows a lot of good defensive schemes to get your defense in the right place. And then the team that you mentioned earlier on, the Las Vegas Raiders, a interesting team to say the least because of what they did in the offseason. New head coach Pete Carroll, he's back in head coaching after a 1-year hiatus from Seattle. He's now the head coach. You bring in Chip Kelly to become the offensive coordinator for this team. So could be seeing a little bit of an offensive style, a college offensive type of playbook for the Raiders this season. You bring in Geno Smith, and that's trade with the Seahawks as well. So he's now the starting quarterback for this team, and a significant upgrade from what they had last season with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. You mentioned Ashton Jeanty earlier on. Of course, is going to be a preseason favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but for what he did last season with Boise State, it shows why he was taken highly in the NFL draft. There is a lot of hype behind Ashton Jeanty going into the season, and if you need any further proof, look what happened to Boise State in the most recent game of college football. It was not a pretty sight. You look at their offensive receivers as well. Biggest one, of course, being Brock Bowers, who had a number of records last year for this Vegas offense and could certainly duplicate that easily with now an upgraded quarterback this season in Geno Smith. And you look at the receiving core as well. They just brought in Amari Cooper. He's now packed with the team, which is a surprise to see. You still have Jacoby Myers for the time being, but he did request a trade. Their offensive line is probably the biggest concern. After Colton Miller, it's really, really a who's who of who's going to step up for this team. But they have a decent enough defense where maybe they could compete in some of these games. But I get the sense, Johnson, they're probably still maybe a year or two away from maybe being a playoff team. So with that all being said, who do you have winning the AFC West?
It's the Chiefs, unfortunately, until proven guilty. And I have a couple things to do want to talk
I'm
about
with
this
you on
team.
that as well, but go ahead.
Not just the Chiefs, but I want to talk about the Broncos and the Chargers as well. And Bo Nix was a guy that was really talked about as a potential future giant back in 2019 after that first season he had with Auburn.
Yep.
I actually had the pleasure of watching Bo Nix play live in college. I saw him versus Texas A&M, and I think it was week maybe 11 or week 10 back in 2021. I was in the stadium, had 110,000 people there. It was a great game. And to a lot of people, that Texas A&M game was the end or the beginning of the end of Bo Nix's tenure as a member of Auburn. Because if you remember that game, it was number 13 Auburn versus number 14 Texas A&M. It was a national game. It was on CBS. 110,000 people there, and they lay a goose egg. They get one field goal. Bo Nix put in an absolute box defensively. He couldn't do anything. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't pass. And then he loses the next 4 games after that. So a team in Auburn, which he was 6-2, ranked 13, potentially a college football playoff, and he's just completely gone. Now, no one could have ever believed what would happen maybe a couple of years after that, what he did at Oregon, because to a lot of people, that was the window shutting on him becoming an NFL QB. And now he's one of the best rookies that we've seen in recent memory. So they are going to have a bright future.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think that's where the Broncos are hoping for because I mean the Russell Wilson experiment. We spoke about that so many times. I mean that didn't work, and as a Giants fan, I'm definitely concerned that with him now being my quarterback. We'll get to that in just a couple minutes, but yeah, the Broncos have an interesting upcoming season because we always talk about quarterbacks. In their second season, do you have that sophomore slump? Is it going to happen? I don't know, but I think for Denver, I think you're in a spot where you have to feel this is probably the most confident you've felt since you had Peyton Manning at your quarterback. So Denver is in a good position right now, I think, to be competing with the Chiefs as a division title winner. Certainly in contention to play in the playoffs once again this upcoming season. And it kind of ties in, Johnson, to our next part of this as to who we think the three wild card teams will be after these division winners. So we'll quickly recap. You have the Bills, Bengals, Texans, and Chiefs as your division winners. I have the Bills, Ravens, Jaguars, and Chiefs as my division winners. Who are your three wild card teams for the AFC?
I might have kind of spoiled this, but the Ravens, obviously. I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I have to.
Hey, you don't
And
have to. You just want to.
yeah, you know what I mean. And I'm going to go with the Chargers here.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Bengals. I'm going to go with the Broncos. The last one has been tricking me so much. And I think you kind of talked me into it earlier, Johnson. I'm going to pick your New England Patriots to make it too.
Yeah, the schedule makes sense. I'm not saying they're one of the top teams, but the schedule makes sense.
It feels similar to, I don't want to say it's almost similar to what happened with the Giants a couple years ago where they made it. But what that happened that season was the Giants had a favorable schedule to where I was saying, I can see a 7-win team. If they make the playoffs, that's great, but I'm not going to guarantee they make the playoffs. And then they make the playoffs, and they actually won a playoff game out of that too. So I could see that happening for New England because you have a favorable schedule. You're hoping for 7 wins, obviously, but you could expect maybe more than 7 wins because there's favorable games in that schedule, and it might just lead to a wild card berth. I'm not sold on the Chargers after the Rashawn Slater injury. I think that's really going to hurt them this season. And I'm concerned about the Texans' offensive line struggles too, because you already had struggles as it was last season, and now you traded away Tunsil. I really don't know why they did that. And it was kind of much, picking between the Steelers and the Patriots at the end of the day for me. And I trust the Patriots more this upcoming season than the Steelers. I just don't have faith right now in that team. But don't worry, they're going to finish 9-8 as they usually do. That's how I see that happening. So that is our picks for the AFC. The wild cards for me: Bengals, Broncos, Patriots. You have Ravens, Chargers, Patriots. Now, Johnson, let's move on to the NFC, and we'll start off with the NFC East. Now, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles are the team to look like once again beat in that division, the reigning Super Bowl champions. They really didn't really have to make much offseason moves. They pretty much brought everyone back from last year's Super Bowl team. Saquon Barkley was a monster for them last season, as much as that hurts to say. You have A.J. Brown, you have Devonta Smith, your offensive line, without Jason Kelce, is still one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in football. Jalen Carter was a great defensive, player for that team last season on the defensive line. We saw what Cooper DeJean did in the Super Bowl in that secondary. So all around and all front, the Eagles looked like once again the team to beat. Now, the team that probably will give them the most contention for the division is probably the Washington Commanders, who had a magical season last year with Jaden Daniels at rookie. He got them all the way into the NFC Championship game. They lost that game, of course, to the Eagles. But you come into this season where, of course, you're bringing back Terry McLaurin, who just recently signed his contract extension. A monster get for that team, considering what happened with Terry and Jaden last year. They were a great duo for that team last season. And then you add Deebo Samuel, who, if he can go back to his old San Francisco 49ers days, that's a great 1-2 tandem at the wide receiver core for this Washington team. Their defense is going to be the talk of the season, where are they going to play good enough to get them some wins, or will this defense maybe have kind of a second year hangover from last year and maybe falter from what happened last season and potentially cost them a playoff spot, in my opinion, because I think their defense is still a little bit 50-50 for me. The final two teams in this division, I mean, I think we have to talk. We haven't talked about a specific trade that hasn't happened yet, and I think now is time for that to happen, because the Dallas Cowboys, as if it wasn't bad enough going into the season, because we knew last year they missed, the last year was not a great year for them, and you go into this upcoming offseason, the biggest talk, of course, was, can we bring back Michael Parsons? Are we going to sign Michael Parsons? Oh, looks like we're going to bring him back. Oh, maybe not, because we haven't talked to his agent. And all this happening, nothing went down. It was a week before the season. This just happened a couple of days ago. And lo and behold, probably a shocking deal, probably one of the more shocking deals we've seen in recent memory. He gets traded from the Cowboys to a team that has beaten up on the Cowboys in the playoffs the last 2 decades in the Green Bay Packers. The Cowboys got 2 first-round picks at Kenny Clark in the deal, but it's pretty much now, to Cowboy fans, a somewhat of a reset button. You still have a good offense, and with Dak Prescott at quarterback, you have CeeDee Lamb. You brought in George Pickens this coming off season, but the running back game is going to be really, really a question mark because it's Javonte Williams, rookie Jaden Blue, and Miles Sanders. So it's not really one to be happy about. And their defense just got significantly worse, unfortunately, for them because you don't have Micah Parsons now. You don't have that edge rusher that's going to get you double-digit sacks every single season. Now you have to find someone that's going to give you that production, and you might need multiple people to get you that production. So I'm not sure where the Cowboys go from there. As a Giants fan, I am not, in the slightest upset that this happened to them because it's just a really bad mismanaging of trying to bring back a player from a contract extension. And then to quickly round up our discussion with the NFC East, I'll talk about my New York Giants real quick. Last year, can't say much more. It was absolutely a bad season. 3 wins. The good news for the team, of course, is Daniel Jones is no longer with the team. They now bring in Russell Wilson to become the starting quarterback. He's got Jameis Winston as his backup, and of course, has got first-round draft pick Jackson Dart, who lit up everyone pretty much in the preseason. So there is some good signs maybe potentially for this team if Jackson Dart does pan out. The question is going to be, when will Jackson Dart start at one point during the season? I would tend to think that's going to happen at some point. It probably depends on if the Giants get off to a slow start. Will that happen? I'm not so sure. Going into the season, they had the toughest strength of schedule going into the year, but then after the Micah Parsons trade, their strength of schedule, I believe, moved down to the third toughest strength of schedule behind, I believe it was the Bears and the Lions tied for the top spot. But the Giants' biggest thing for them coming is going to be their defense. You brought in Abdul Carter, the rookie third overall draft pick, who's going to come into a unit with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, middle linebacker. You have a secondary that is still young but could definitely improve. They brought in Paulson Adebo from the Saints, Tyler Nubin at safety as well, the rookie from last season. Had a pretty nice rookie year for them. The secondary is going to be the concern, but their front seven is going to be the unit that the Giants are looking forward to the most, with Burns, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and now Duke Carter. That's what you have to be excited for if you're a Giants fan. Schedule wise for them, it's really pretty much Johnson, what you were mentioning earlier on, where, and we kind of talked about this yesterday. The Giants could be in a spot where they could start the season maybe 3-1, 4-1, or they could be 0-5. It's just really tough to tell where this team is right now. But we'll have to see. That's why you play the games on Sunday. So with that being said, who do you have winning the NFC East this season?
I've got the Commanders. I don't think it's gonna be the Eagles.
Really?
Yeah, I got the
Okay.
Commanders. I think the Eagles take a slight step back, and I think Washington overtakes. I don't think Jane Daniels has as big as a sophomore slump as everyone thinks. They're gonna keep the receiving core intact. They have a great rookie, but great potential for a standout rookie in their backfield. And I don't know. I feel like I just don't believe in Jalen Hurts. Even after the last season, I still don't really believe in him. I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling kind of thing. I don't think. Listen, Eagles are gonna have a great season. They might win 11, 12 games. I think the Commanders win it, and then if they do win it, I think it's off a tiebreaker. So give me Washington for now.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Eagles until I see something otherwise. But, I mean, Commanders would be an interesting pick if that does happen. I mean, after what happened for them last season, I guess anything's realistically possible for them. Maybe they could shock everyone and win the division. But I'll go with the Eagles. I think just until I see something different, they would have to be a spot where it's kind of what I said earlier for Buffalo, where it's pretty much theirs to lose. But if something catastrophic happens, then that's probably how they lose the division. So I'll go with Philadelphia to win the NFC East. Going in now to the NFC North, of course, we just talked about the Micah Parsons deal. He now is on the Green Bay Packers, who, of course, bring back Jordan Love. He does have a hand-ish injury going into the season, but that's on his non-throwing hand. So we'll see if that plays a factor for him this year. Josh Jacobs had a really good season for them last season. They finally drafted a wide receiver in the first round, that being Matthew Golden. He goes into a wide receiving core with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, just to name a few from that receiving core. Their defense now significantly improves now with this Micah Parsons deal. So the Packers certainly are trying to compete with last year's division champion, the Detroit Lions, at the helm. The Lions bringing back Aiden Hutchinson certainly will help them because them losing him at the end of the season or the midway point of the season last year was a big reason why they lost in the playoffs to the Commanders in the fashion they did. Their defense just really did not look the same after he got injured. Getting him back is certainly going to help. Now, keep in mind, the biggest story for them this season was, of course, losing their two coordinators, and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. We'll talk about Ben Johnson in just a few moments, but that's going to be the story for them is going to be, can this team still do good enough, can still be good enough with these coordinators now gone? Did they make the coordinators look good, or did the coordinators make them look the way that they were the last couple of seasons? So that's something to look for Detroit. But Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Laporta, their offense alone right there is going to be a top 5 offense, it looks like, potentially this season. And then bringing back Hutchinson should help them in the pass rush department. The last two teams in the division, you have the Minnesota Vikings, who have a weird scenario where they are, in my opinion, a 50-50 team because you have J.J. McCarthy now finally the full-time starter after him getting injured in last season's preseason game, week 1. They had to start Sam Darnold the whole season. He got them into the playoffs, but they got pretty much run out of the stadium as well in their playoff matchup last season. So now McCarthy becomes a starter after Darnold left in the offseason. And we don't necessarily know what he's going to be because we really haven't seen too much from him after his injury last season and really just a couple preseason games in action. So he's the biggest what-if scenario in that entire division, that's for sure, in my opinion. But I think, you bring back Justin Jefferson, and you obviously not have Jordan Addison for the first 3 weeks of the season with the suspension. Aaron Jones should help a little bit in the running back department. You have Hawkins at a tight end. Their defense should be good enough to help them win games as well. So the Vikings are in an interesting spot where, in my opinion, they're either, one of those playoff teams competing, or they might be a team that's struggling on offense because McCarthy just isn't panning out. And then, Johnson, it's, of course, the team, the biggest what-if team maybe in all of football, the Chicago Bears. You bring in Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. He's now your new head coach, and he's trying to fix up all the offensive mistakes that the Bears have had in, I don't want to say the last 5 years, probably their entire franchise's history, because I don't remember what Caleb, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong. Did Caleb finish with 4,000 yards passing last year?
He did not. Oh, trust me, he did not finish with
Yeah, so
4,000 yards.
they're still looking for their first ever 4,000 passing yard quarterback in team's history.
Hey,
Now,
sometimes it takes a team, a year to do it, and sometimes it takes 100.
100,
usually
yes,
usually it's closer to the, usually it's not the latter, but hey, it happens.
But I will say, bringing in Johnson could help them. I think this is a make or break year for Caleb Williams, that's for certain, because Ben Johnson is basically that offensive guru that has made Jared Goff look like a revelation in Detroit, and now you're hoping that could be the same for Caleb Williams in Chicago. DeAndre Swift still a running back. You still have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and at a receiver. You now have Colston Loveland to pair a tight end with Cole Kmet. Their offensive line was a big upgrade in the offseason. They added, I think, 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen will be new offensive linemen for them this season. And their defense was pretty good in the second half of the season, if you remember. It was a big reason why the Bears were winning some games last year after they traded for Montez Sweat, most notably during the trade deadline. So if they play the way they play in the second half of the season, the Bears could be a team that could be competing for the division and maybe even a wild card spot as well this upcoming season. So with that being said, who do you have winning this division where you could make the case, Johnson, every single one of these teams could maybe win the division, or you could make the case maybe, but you could make the case they all could make the playoffs at least.
You're right. If I were streaming, I could make the case for the Bears. That would definitely be.
I know you're not a Caleb Williams guy. I know.
No, until he is guilty, until proven innocent at this point. Yeah. This is the only time I will use that terminology because he may be the 4th best quarterback in that draft. Like at the end of the season, if everyone else performs, If May performs, if Bo Nix performs, uh, if Jane Daniels performs, he may be the fourth best quarterback in that draft. Again,
Could be
this
worse
is
if
way too
McCarthy does
early to
good
say
too.
this. What? Say that again.
I was gonna say it could be worse if McCarthy does better than him too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to. I'm not going to
I'm
talk like
not saying
JJ.
it will
I haven't seen him
happen,
take a
but
single snap. But yeah, it's
yeah,
possible.
it's possible if McCarthy pans out well and Williams plays bad again, then yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
but
a possibility.
give me Detroit. Give
Okay.
me, a team that, yeah, they lost Ben Johnson, but Jared Goff still, he's gonna be really good, and they got that high powered offense with those receivers. Jameson Williams looks really good. They got Amon Ra. They got a dynamic backfield with David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. So give me Detroit for now. And they got one of the, I think, defensive player of the year, potentially Nathan Hutchinson. So they got all
Yeah.
the bells and whistles.
He's gonna be hungry to play, that's for sure. After getting injured last season, we know he's gonna want to have a double digit sack season, that's for sure. But I don't think he's gonna win Defensive Player of the Year because I think it's gonna go to Micah Parsons, and I think that's gonna be a reason why I picked the Packers to win this division. Um, I like the Packers going into the season before this trade, and I like them even now more after this trade happened. You add Parsons, that's going to do a lot for this defense that was pretty good and was pretty solid for the majority of the season last year. He's going to get you double digit sacks. He's going to help other guys in the defensive line as well. And that offense, I really think, is starting to turn a corner into a good position where they could be a top five offense this upcoming season. So I've got the Packers to win this division. It's going to be a close race between them and Detroit, but I think Green Bay just edges them out and wins this division at the end of the season. And then we'll go into the NFC South next, Johnson. Another
Yeah, let's
division
do it.
where it's tough to sell, really, because I think it's a two-team race, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think it's Buccaneers and Falcons to lose, and the Panthers are a team that isn't there yet, but I think they
They're
have
on
the
the way.
potential to be, yeah, they have the potential to maybe win 7 games this season. I'll go quickly into what these teams have done in the offseason. Buccaneers, they bring back Baker, of course. Rashad White was great for them last year. Mike Evans, we know the story with him. He'll look to get another 1,000 yards this year. You get Chris Godwin back at some point during the season. Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State, their first round draft pick, is going to be the guy to be the number 2 receiver until Godwin gets back. And when he does, you got a triple head monster there in the receiving core. Their defense is led by Vita Vea. That's all you really need to say about that defense. You also have Antoine Winfield Jr. on that defensive side. So the Buccaneers looking to win another division title. And considering, how everyone thought they're going to fall off after Brady left, they've done a pretty good job the last couple seasons making sure that that was not the case. Going into the next team, Atlanta, they're another team that is pretty much a what if because we saw 3 games out of Michael Penix last year starting for this team. He's now the full-time starter for the Falcons. If he plays good enough to where he did I think it was the last 2 games realistically. He did play the last 3, but I think one of those wasn't great. If he plays good enough in this upcoming season, the Falcons could be a really, really fun team to watch because you have Bijan Robinson, you have Drake London, we have our boy Kyle Pitts as well. Maybe this is the year, Johnson. We say it every single season with him, but maybe this
Then you
could be
wake
the
up.
year for Kyle Pitts. True. But I think this is big for the Falcons to do good because keep in mind, the Falcons do not have their first round pick this upcoming season in the draft. They traded it away to the Rams to get James Pierce from Tennessee in the draft. So it is very, very big on them to maybe make the playoffs this season, either as a division winner or as a wild card team. So that's a most importance for this team. Otherwise, it could lead to some changes in the offseason for that squad. Going into the final 2 teams, Carolina, I mentioned it earlier, they're not there just yet, but there is probably some hope for this team. Bryce Young, after getting benched last season, did look a lot better in the second half of the season.
He did.
And you look at what their offense looks like. Chuba Hubbard was great for them for the majority of the year, too, a running back. Their receiving core is still, I think, in my opinion, a question mark, but the way that they've been talking about the receiving core, they feel very confident in this team and what they can do for the upcoming season. So maybe they take some strides into getting that, Bryce Young better for the upcoming season. We'll have to see if it does work out for them at the end of the day. But Carolina could be a team that could be competing with a lot of teams. And then their defense is still another big question mark, too. They're pretty much just a whole question mark right now. But I don't think they're there yet to win the division. And then the Saints, I mean, what really can you say more about the Saints? Because they named Spencer Rattler the starting quarterback after Derek Carr retired due to injuries. He beat out Tyler Shuck, the rookie quarterback out of Louisville, in the preseason. You still have Alvin Kamara. When healthy, you still have Chris Olave, but that's a big, what if on him being healthy. Their defense lost Tyrann Mathieu to retirement as well in the offseason. Cam Jordan's getting near the end of his career as well. Kamara, going back to him, also, it's a possibility he could get traded at some point with considering he's up there in age as well. So the Saints, in my opinion, are just in a rebuild mode. They're nowhere near in contention for a division title at any point in time. But we'll see if, Kellen Moore, the new head coach, can do something for this franchise in the next couple seasons. So with that all being said, who do you have winning the NFC South?
It's Tampa Bay until proven otherwise. They got Mike Evans, Mister 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin's gonna have a slow start. They have a what's the wide receiver? They have a Mecca.
Mecca Ibuka, yep.
Yep, they have a Mecca Abuka there. I knew that. Baker Mayfield, which I'm looking forward to his redemption arc that continues. He's over the age of 30 now, so he's getting up there in age. But he's been performing the last couple seasons. He finally found a home there. He's comfortable. You mentioned Atlanta, very interesting, but I just don't trust their quarterback play yet. And Baker, to me, is the best quarterback in the division. They have the best wide
Yes.
receiving core. And I think they have the best running backs, too. Chuba Hubbard's a close second. Alvin
I'll take
Kamara,
Rashad
he is the
White.
team.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Uh,
Not
it's
Rashad White,
just,
sorry, Bucky Irvin.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I probably said Rashad White earlier, too. I meant to say Bucky Irving.
I know what you meant. But Alvin
Yeah.
Kamara I think he's the most talented running back, but he's just not going to get that production because he's going to be Mr. Check Down. He's going to be Mr. Power Eye. He's going to be getting the ball almost every. He might get 30 or 40 touches a game.
That's why I say that he that's why I mentioned him in our fantasy preview, that he could still have a really good fantasy season because I feel like he's going to get the ball every single play pretty much, it feels like.
Yeah, and I want to talk about really quick Bryce Young, who is getting better, but this is going to be a crazy stat. In 15 games at Alabama in 21, which was his best season, he had 47 passing touchdowns and 4,900 yards, roughly. 7 interceptions. He has currently, for 2 NFL seasons, 26 touchdowns. So for 30 career games, he's got 26 passing touchdowns. That means maybe by game 45, he would match his single season total at Alabama. So this is a real, and his yardage combined those 2 years is 5,200. So his one single season at Alabama is way better production wise than 2 full seasons in the NFL, which is crazy to think about. This is a guy, he should at least, you would expect it after year 2 of Bryce Young, at least 40 passing touchdowns. At least. But hey, he's got a lot of talent, and he looked a lot better, like we said at the end of the last season. So I hope he does get it. If he could have 25 passing touchdowns and like close to 4,000 yards, he'll keep his job. If they end up having 8 or 9 wins and he looks promising, he'll keep his job. Right. This is a big year for him.
And I think for him as well, it's kind of like a year where you don't want to get benched again. I don't think it's going to happen, especially with Dalton still as your backup. But you can't afford it because if it does happen again, that's pretty much the end of your career, it feels like. Or at least in Carolina, that's the end of it. You get benched twice, that's not a good sight. I don't think that's going to happen. You obviously hope that doesn't happen for his sake, but it's kind of like we mentioned earlier on with Trevor Lawrence and guys like that, where it's make or break for him this season. He has to keep improving what he did last season in order to keep his job and show that he could be a reliable quarterback in the NFL for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's a big year upcoming for him this season, hopefully. And then, Jonathan, let's round it out with the NFC West. 49ers, I don't know where they go from here because after missing the playoffs last season again with injuries, Brock Purdy's back. You're hoping that CMC plays at least more than one game this season after the year he had last year. Still irked about that for fantasy purposes. I won't get into that. But you do trade away Deebo Samuel. You don't have Brandon Ayuk to start the season because of injury. So your top 2 receivers are going to be Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings going into the year. And your defense still looks pretty good on paper. I mean, that's probably the best thing going for the 49ers if they want to have a chance to win this division once again and get back to the playoffs after missing it last year. But I think the biggest threat for them in a couple of seasons is probably going to be the Los Angeles Rams, who do have injury concerns at quarterback with Matthew Stafford, but it looks to be he's going to be okay going into the season. Kyron Williams is your running back, a great running back for them right there. A monster 1-2 tandem, and Devontae Adams, who they brought into the offseason. And, of course, Puka Nacua. They let a Cooper Kupp go, but when you get added Devontae Adams after having a pretty good season for the Jets last year, albeit after what happened for the Jets season, he still is producing at this current age of his career. And their defense, despite not having Aaron Donald anymore, obviously, they looked pretty good last year and were a big reason why they got into the playoffs last season. So I think the Rams are a team to look out for the NFC this upcoming season if everything goes right and Stafford can stay healthy. The final two teams, the Cardinals, they're in another spot where you're still seeing what you have right now in your entire team, because is Kyler that dude? Is he your franchise quarterback? For now, yes. But long term, I don't know. You've only made one playoff appearance with him so far, and that one playoff appearance was a blowout loss. You have James Conner, a running back. You're still waiting to see Marvin Harrison Jr. take that big step after having a disappointing rookie season. Their defense is still in a different, position where they don't realistically know where they're going to be at. And on the offensive side, I forgot to mention, of course, Trey McBride, who was a monster for them last season. And you're hoping he and Marvin Harrison could be a big, nice 1-2 tandem and receiving wise for Kyler Murray this season. And then finally, the Seattle Seahawks. New quarterback in Sam Darnold. You don't have DK Metcalf anymore. You don't have Tyler Lockett anymore at receiver. You're now replacing them. Of course, you still have JSN, who's going to be now that go-to guy at the receiving core. You have now Cooper Kupp, who, as I mentioned earlier on, left the Rams. He is now going to be that number 2 wide receiver for Seattle. Their defense still is... it's weird because they're not a bad unit, but they also aren't the most impressive unit. They're probably like the middle of the pack defensive unit in the entire NFL. And you're still hoping that Kenneth Walker in the running back department can stay healthy, because that's been a major problem for him this entire career. You do have Jack Charbonnet as a nice backup, but yeah, Seattle's a weird team for me. I'm not sure how they're going to do this upcoming season. So with that being said, who do you have winning the NFC West?
I really want to pick the 49ers here. I really do. However, I think the window is closed. The door is closed. I think it has to be the Rams. I can't pick the 49ers in good faith. I know
agree with you on that.
It's just Stafford's really good. They got Puka Nacua. They have a lot of weapons there in offense, and 49ers are a declining team. I don't think Brock Purdy is all that good. So go with the Rams for now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm not going to really back up much. I will say I'm just going to go with the Rams because the 49ers just have so much injury concerns. If they stay healthy, they're a playoff team for sure, but you can't really, you have to go into a crystal ball pretty much to find out if they're going to stay healthy for the season. And I'm not sure if they're going to. It's just the same thing for them every single season, unfortunately. So I'm just going to pick the Rams because they're probably the safest pick for me in this entire division. I don't trust Seattle. I still don't trust Arizona. And if I'm picking between San Francisco and LA, I will rather go with LA. So I will go with the Rams as well. Quick recap of our division winners before we go into the wild card. We have we have the Eagles, Packers, Buccaneers, and Rams are my picks. For you, it's Commanders, Lions, Buccaneers, and Rams for your picks. What about the wild card? Who do you have as your 3 teams?
Green Bay, Eagles, and the 49ers.
Green Bay. Okay, so you still have San Francisco making the playoffs, despite the
I have them making the playoffs. It's gonna be close, but they'll be in the playoffs. They're just not gonna be the division winner.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Lions, Commanders, and I know you're not gonna agree with it, but I'm gonna go with the Bears. I think
good one.
I just think that this is
got jokes on this show now. Nick's actually debuting his stand-up comedy live here in front of everyone.
I had the Jets the Super Bowl last year, so you should already know
that was a good one. Going. That was a very good joke.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one. My stand-up act will be will be every week here on this show, making picks if that's the case. But I'm gonna go with the Bears just because I think the talent is there. I think if everything goes right, which I think it will, I pretty much spoke about this on the fantasy pod too, but I think the Bears are going to have a pretty good season. So I'm going to go with Chicago as my last wildcard team. I think they're legit the last team in the NFC. So I have 3 NFC North teams making the playoffs this year. So for us wildcards, it's Packers, Eagles, 49ers for you. For me, it is the Lions, the Commanders, and the Bears. Now let's go into the final portion of this segment, Johnson. Let's go into our MVP pick. Who do you have winning the MVP for this upcoming season?
That's Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, okay.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, and if he throws for the yards that you were talking about earlier, it's probably going to happen.
5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. Incoming.
I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. I think a lot of people were irked that he didn't win it last season, so I feel like he's gonna have extra motivation for the upcoming season. He's gonna probably use that to fuel himself to win another MVP. And am I saying this also because I have him in fantasy? More than likely, that's probably why I did this pick too. But I just think Lamar Jackson's just such a you know an insane talent. He's a guy that should be winning multiple MVPs. He's already won 2. He'll probably get his 3rd one this upcoming season. So give me Baltimore's Lamar Jackson as my MVP pick. And then Johnson, let's do the final 1 picks of this segment. Super Bowl matchup, Super Bowl winner, and who do you have winning Super Bowl MVP?
I've got Bills Lions.
You got the Bills and the Lions. Okay.
Bills Lions, and I'm going to have.
I see. I wonder why you're taking the Bills in the mushing hour.
Wow, I wonder why. And I have the Lions beating the Bills and Jared Goofball as my Super Bowl MVP, coming full story arc with Detroit. It becomes a win-win trade. That Rams Lions trade for Stafford and Goff becomes win-win for both teams, and Jared Goff leads the city of Detroit to a Super Bowl. And now, since it's the mushing hour, this is when you wake up.
Okay. Jared Goff MVP. That would be something. That would be definitely something. For my Super Bowl pick, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens against the Green Bay Packers. And I will go with the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl this season. I just like what they've done this offseason and adding Parsons. I don't know how much more I could say. I think it's going to really help them this upcoming season. And for my Super Bowl MVP, I'm going to go with the guy that got ran out of Vegas. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs as my Super Bowl MVP. Got a pretty bad rep, and he did monster numbers for not only Vegas, but look what he did last season for this Packers team, too. I think 17 rushing touchdowns last season for them. I don't think he's going to run for that many this season, but I think what comes Super Bowl time, I think he's gonna if they get there against Baltimore, I think he'll have a monster game. So give me Josh Jacobs as my Super Bowl MVP. Round out quickly before we go to the mushing hour. I have Ravens and Packers with the Packers winning and Josh Jacobs as my MVP. And you have the Bills and the Lions with the Lions win the Super Bowl and Jared Goff, or as you like to call him, Goofball, winning your Super Bowl MVP. But Johnson, that of course leads us to our final part of our show this week. And it's of course everyone's favorite part of the show when we do these podcasts. It is the mushing hour. And I always ask you this question, Johnson, but I feel like it's a good time as any to ask it once again. For those that don't know, what does the mushing hour entail for this upcoming week 1 in the NFL?
It's a play on the witching hour. Wins become losses and losses become wins. This is where losers become winners because neither of us pick them, and winners become losers because we both pick them.
Yes. And if you need any further proof, just look at my college football picks. I'm off to a bad start once again.
Hey, I'm 2-2 right now, so that's
You're
way
doing
better.
Good. I'm not doing good.
If I can go one game above 500 this week, that's a great week.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I was making those college football picks. I promise to do better for the NFL picks. And listen, last season was a pretty good year for you and I picking wise. I probably made a little bit too many double selections last season, but I was still over 500, which I'll definitely take. And you were 80-64 with 2
55%.
Very, very
55% on the year. Great year.
So let's kick things off with, of course, the NFL season opener on Thursday night. That game being taking place in Philadelphia. I almost forgot the stadium name. I don't know how I forgot the stadium name. Lincoln Financial Field. It is Cowboys and Eagles to kick off the season. The Eagles, a 7.5 point favorite, over under 46.5 for this game.
Give me Eagles minus 7.5 here. I don't think this is going to be a contest at this point. Micah Parsons is in Green Bay now. He got that big paycheck, which he's only making an extra
Yeah.
900K a year to live in Green Bay because of the taxes in the state.
I think his
So yeah,
salary base is like 61 mil this season.
yeah, but after taxes is like the same thing as Dallas,
I
which is the
know.
craziest part.
I know.
So he went all the way up north, obviously to a way better organization in Green Bay, but all the way up north for 900K. I don't know if I would have done that, but who knows?
Hmm. Hey, money talks. At the end of the day, money talks. I'm gonna go pick the same thing. I'm gonna go with Eagles minus 7.5. It's more of the fact that the Cowboys got worse with that trade, and the Eagles are right now one of the best teams in the NFL, unfortunately for me. But if I'm gonna mush the Eagles in Week 1, I guess so be it. Let's see if it works. So give me Eagles minus 7.5 in that game. What's our next game, Johnson?
We have the Chiefs versus the Chargers Friday night in Brazil. Uh, Chiefs are 3.5 point favorites. 44.5 is the slated over under. I'm going to take Chargers plus 3.5 here. I think they'll cover. These games are always close for whatever reason. It seems like the Chargers always cover but never win. So it could be Chargers plus 3.5.
Yeah, and you know my stance on 3.5.
That's a
Over
great line. That's a
spread.
great line for the
It is
underdog.
because this probably will end in a field goal. This probably will end in a field goal game. But if I'm gonna base this off what I saw last year. If you remember correctly, what happened in last year's Brazil game, which was the Packers and the Eagles, the field conditions were not great. So that is definitely going to be a concern for this game. I think. I I'm probably not going to pick the winner of this game. I think I'm going to stay away from spread and everything. I'm going to look towards the over under in this game. 44 and a half. I think I'm going to lean towards the under. I think we saw a lot of points scored last year. Those were two teams that have better offenses, in my opinion, than the two teams that are playing in this game. I could see this being a 17-14 final with one of these teams kicking a last second field goal. So I'm going to go with the under in this Brazil game. I don't expect the field conditions to be great once again, unfortunately, for this one. But we'll see. Maybe it is a good game on Friday night in Brazil. Our next game, we go into our Sunday slate, the first Sunday games of the season. And this one on paper probably isn't, a big headliner, but of course it's Aaron Rodgers' return to the Meadowlands where he takes on his former team, the New York Jets. Steelers and Jets, Justin Fields takes on his former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers on the road, a 2.5 point favorite. 38.5 is the over-under. They are expecting a low-scoring game in the Meadowlands. Who do you have this one, Johnson?
Give me the Steelers here. Steelers minus 2.5. Aaron Rodgers gets his revenge.
I'm right with you. I don't have faith in Jets right now. It's a close spread. I don't have much faith in the Steelers either, but the Steelers are still a better team than the Jets. So I'm going to pick Steelers minus 2.5 as well. Keep it short and sweet. What's our next game?
We have the Buccaneers at the Falcons. Buccaneers are 2.5 point favorite on the road. Over under slate at 46.5. I'm taking Bucks minus 2.5.
These two, I mean, if you remember the games they played last year, these were two fun games that they played. A lot of points were scored in both matchups, if I remember correctly. I think they split both matchups, if I'm not mistaken, too. I think both the home teams won in their respective matchups. Um, I will go with the Falcons plus 2.5. I think it's going to be a similar scenario this season where these two teams probably just split their home and home matchups. And I could see this being an offensive shootout. I'll stay away from taking the over in this game. It is a lot of points, but I do think this could be a very high scoring game. There's so many offensive players, good talent from both sides. But I'm going to go with the Falcons plus 2.5. I do think they can win this game outright in this big, highly contested divisional rivalry in week number 1. Our next matchup, we have the Houston Texans going on the road to take on the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, a 2.5 point favorite, over under 43.5.
Rams minus 2.5. I think
Yep.
this is an easy one. They're at home and they have a better team, and that's way too close of a spread for against the Texans. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm taking.
I could see this being another low scoring game too, because I think these are two of the best defenses in the entire league. Definitely two top 10 defenses. I'm gonna go with the Rams in this one because I think they just unfortunately for the Texans face, sake, they don't have the offense compared to the Rams. There's not a lot of receiving options outside of Nico Collins, and the running game is just better in Los Angeles compared to Houston. So give me the Rams in that game, minus 2.5. What's our next matchup?
We have Lions versus Packers. Lions on the road going into Green Bay. Uh, really great matchup here. Packers are at home, -2.5 favorites, and over under slate at 46.5. I'm taking Lions plus 2.5. I think they're going to win this game.
I might as well go with the Packers since I picked them in the Super Bowl, right?
Hey, you
I'm
have
gonna
to. I
go.
picked the Lions, so
Yeah, yeah. It's our Super Bowl picks. Funny enough, I didn't even notice that. It's our Super Bowl picks in week number one. I will go with the Green Bay Packers minus 2.5. This game is pretty much. It could literally be a coin flip. I think it's just that close. They're just two evenly matched teams in my opinion. So I'll go with Green Bay minus 2.5. It's probably going to come down to a last second field goal between these two as well. So I'll take the Packers. How about this matchup, though, on Sunday Night Football, Johnson? Ravens at the Bills, a rematch from last year's playoffs. These two teams always put up some fun matchups every single time they play. It's in Orchard Park. The Bills are a 1.5 point favorite. 51.5, the over under for this game.
I think I have to pick the Bills. However, taking Ravens plus 1.5.
Okay.
I just a gut feeling here that the Ravens are gonna win this match on the road. So give me Ravens plus 1.5.
I will go with Buffalo. I'm going to go with Bills minus 1.5. It's another coin toss game, honestly. It's probably going to be another game that ends up. There's probably going to be a lot of these games that end in a last second field goal, the way it looks like it's going to be. But I think Buffalo, for me right now, I feel like every time Baltimore goes into Buffalo, bad things happen. So I'm going to continue with the trend and I'll just take the Bills to win this game. But it's going to be a great game regardless. I'm looking forward to this game, probably out of all the games this upcoming weekend in the NFL. And then, of course, Johnson, we have one final game on Monday night. What do we got?
We have Vikings versus Bears. Vikings going into Soldier Field in Chicago on Monday Night Football. Vikings are the away team. However, they are favored by 1.5 points. Over under set at 43.5. I'm taking the Vikings over here. Vikings 1.5.
I might as well take the team that I picked in the playoffs. I'm going to go with Chicago plus 1.5.
I respect the consistency.
I will say, JJ McCarthy going into Soldier Field for his first NFL start. I'm I think that's a good test to see how he's going to do because that's a hostile environment in Chicago. I really think that's an early good sign for McCarthy to see how he's going to do if he's going to pan out this season against a Bears team that I think is going to be a really good improved team this upcoming season. So I'll go with Chicago plus 1.5 and a highly contested NFC North showdown. And the NFC North is going to be on full display this week because all four teams are playing against each other to start week one. You don't really see that very often when you have week one of the NFL season, and we're going to be seeing it to start this year. So that is our picks for week one of this year's NFL season. Hopefully, Johnson and I continue our trend from last year and have another record above 500 going into this 2025-2026 season. Johnson, any final thoughts you have on just this week or just for your Patriots before we wrap this one up?
I'm looking forward to another great season of football, and like I said before a million times, Patrick Mahomes better have 16 touchdowns by week 5, or you'll never hear the end of it from me.
Yeah, I know. Get ready, folks, because he's been waiting for this.
I'm waiting. This is
Patrick
year
Mahomes
3 of what
topic.
I've been saying for a little bit, so you better
Yep.
perform.
If you don't know, just tune in the next couple weeks. You might want to hear it. Patrick Mahomes has a rough start to the season. For me, I'm just looking forward to another great year of football. Obviously, last year was probably one of the not greater experiences for football for me just because of what happened for my team. And then, of course, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. But I have a lot of good expectations for this upcoming season. I think the Giants will be a lot better than everyone expects. At least I'm hoping that's the case. We'll see if Jackson Dart starts. We'll see if Russell Wilson pans out, for at least for the start of the season. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Abdul Carter and Cam Scadaboo, I forgot to mention him earlier too, but how those rookies maybe play out for the majority of the season. Hopefully they do pan out as well, and maybe get the Giants into a spot where they win 7 games, and then there's hope on the horizon for this team for the next couple of years. So we'll see. I have a lot of hope going into the year, but I'm just looking forward to the great NFL season this upcoming year. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. It is week 1 of the NFL season coming up this week with the Eagles and Cowboys kicking it off on Thursday night, Chiefs and Chargers on Friday in Brazil. Of course, some big games on Sunday, Lions and the Packers, Ravens and Bills on Sunday night, and it all ends with Monday Night Football, the Vikings, and the Bears. But that'll not be the only time you hear from Johnson and I this week on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The next time you'll be hearing from us, we'll be recapping week 1 of the college football season, a very big week 1 of the college football season. We'll be recapping those games and then going in to our week 2 preview for the college football season. And we'll be back here next week for our week 1 recap of the NFL season going into week number 2. This has been Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson, for the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your NFL Week 1.